I'm sure like Lala and I, when we start in real estate, it's a vast things you can do. It's everything. Why would you choose retail?
So my parents were in residential real estate. My dad was a realtor. My mom did property management, like condos. And they used to, the tenants used to call complaining about the air conditioning on weekends and during dinner. And I'm like, I would never do this. So in 1990, he comes to me and he says, we're going to buy this deal. Do you want in? And now I'm probably making 80, 90,000. My husband, the same. I go, I don't have any money. He goes, what do you mean you don't have any money? I'm like, well, I went to Hawaii. I have a Jaguar, and I thought I'm maxed out on my 401k. And he's like, you're an idiot.
Values of the market and values of the houses, we cannot control it. But we can control the push appreciation by having the correct tenants.
And the most important thing in my business in retail is location, location, location.
Hola, ¿qué tal, Lala? ¿Cómo estás? Muy buenos días a todos los que nos están escuchando. Estamos en un episodio más de Real Estate Talks. Muchas gracias por sintonizarnos. Recuerden que cada miércoles tenemos material nuevo, así que háganle subscribe o like o síganos. ¿Cómo estás el día de hoy, Lala?
Muy bien, Gaby, muy contenta de estar aquí otra vez contigo de forma remota que nos permite tener invitados más diversos y estoy súper contenta porque tenemos una gran invitada el día de hoy, a Beth Azor. Ahorita te dijo que la presentes. Azor, Beth, how do you pronounce your last name?
Azor.
Azor, ok. Sí, estoy muy contenta. Este podcast lo vamos a hacer en inglés, entonces ya saben, siempre es Spanglish a veces, pero esperemos que lo disfruten mucho y que aprendan bastante.
Sí, me encanta este tema porque es este real estate comercial. Beth, thank you so much for allowing us to learn about you and this topic that Lala and I are fascinated by, that is commercial, retail commercial. I met Beth through a organization that we have mentioned several times in the podcast, Go Abundance for Women. So when I learn about you and what you do, it's perfect to have you in the podcast, but I'll let you introduce yourself and let us know where you are and how long have you been in the business and how you started it.
Sí, buenas noches. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Habla español un poquito, but no necesito for the podcast. I have to speak in English.
Okay,
perfect.
But I try.
Here.
Okay. So Beth Azor, I live in South Florida. My ex-husband is Cuban, so my son, mi hijo, who is 24, habla español total, because abuela total habla español. So muy importante, mi hijo habla español tu abuela. Para mí, no so much. So 39 years in commercial real estate retail. I started when I was 26. I'm 64. I ran a company. I started it with a company when there were 11 people where I leased retail space, filled empty spaces and shopping centers. I grew through the company. We ended up with 150 people. I became the president. I started investing as a limited partner with my boss, who then became my partner. In 2004, my son was 4. And I couldn't be running a big company with 150 employees and be a good mom. I had then since divorced, so my nanny was raising my son. So I left that company and I thought, okay, I'm going to start GPing, general partnering, syndicating my own deals. And I started doing that. And I've been on my own since 2004, so almost for 21 years, buying deals. So I did limited partners with my ex-partner I did 7 limited partners in all shopping centers. And then I GP'd, I think, 12 deals. And now it's coming full circle. I'm on a mission to get more women to invest. So I've LP'd, I think, 14 times. It's like, so I started LPing, then I GP'd, and now I'm doing a lot of LPing, mostly with women, because I have a passion to help women invest.
And I know, Lala have mentioned it a lot because she used the GP and LP a lot, but would you explain us what is the involvement in the difference on those two when it comes to commercial retail?
Yes. So if I want to, I bought a strip club and I knocked it down and built a strip shopping center, and I was the general partner. So I put it under contract. I created the development. I leased it. I raised family and funds money. So I syndicated it, meaning I put in part of the money, raised the other part. I got a mortgage. So I was in charge of the deal. And so that is a general partner. I have a friend, Natasha, who buys multifamily assets in Miami, Little Havana, and Hialeah, cultural cities, which I'm very attached to. And she buys, 10 unit, 15 unit, 30 unit. She runs the deals. I give her a check and she gives me checks back. I am a limited partner. I have no decision-making capability. I just make money on her investments, hopefully when they do well.
Got you, got you. So, going back to when you started retail, I'm sure like Lala and I, when we started real estate, is like, it's a vast things you can do. It's everything. Why would you choose retail? What are the things that you like most about retail that other niches don't offer? And also later, maybe we might ask you what are things you don't like, but let's start with what are you passionate about in that specific area?
So my parents were in residential real estate. My dad was a realtor. My mom did property management, like condos. So absentee owners in a beach town in Florida. And they used to, the tenants used to call complaining about the air conditioning on weekends and during dinner. And I'm like, I would never do this. I graduated Florida State, and I got a job as a special events coordinator at a charity, a charitable organization, and I loved it. My goal in life was to run the Olympics one day. I love planning events, and but my starting salary at that job was $11,000 in 1983. So that's like 30 today. So because most kids that live in real estate families, I got my license when I was 18, my real estate license. So all during college summers, I'd sit open houses for my parents, I'd make commissions. So I realized that as much as I loved my job at the Heart Association, which was the charity I worked for, and loved doing the events, I couldn't live on $11,000. So I did real estate on the weekends. So for 2 years, I worked at a job I loved during the week, loved it. I went from 11,000 to 23,000. Yeah. But my real estate job, sitting open houses on the weekend for a residential developer, I was making about 40 just on the weekends with commissions. So my executive director of my job at the Heart said, she brought me in her office one day and she said, "We love you, but your ambition exceeds us." She goes, "I don't make much more than you do, and I'm the executive director. Why don't you go do the real estate thing full time and just volunteer for us on the events?" So I was tired of working 7 days a week. I was 25 years old. All my friends were going out on the weekends and I couldn't do that. So I said, good idea. So I quit the Heart, went to work for the residential developer, and I went from working 7 days a week to sitting in a trailer reading People magazines. And I thought I was gonna, I just
go crazy. Yeah.
Go crazy. And I went to the developer and I said, "We need to do events." And he goes, no. I build luxury homes. You just sell them when the people come into the trailer. So we had a woman that came to help us out one weekend, and she said, "You should get into commercial." And I said, selling land? That's more boring than this. That's what I thought commercial was. She goes, no, there's this thing called leasing. And my boss builds shopping centers and he puts in a supermarket. And then there's all this space available. And your job is to go find entrepreneurs, Lala. And once you help them find their space, like the bagel shop or the dry cleaner or the nail salon, you become part of their families' lives because you help them achieve their American dream. And I went, where do I sign up for that? And I found a company that did training, and I got the job, walked in day one, literally goosebumps. I said, this is like where I'm supposed to be. And that was in 1986. And I was there 18 years, and they trained me.
And you were a leasing agent, like you were in charge of finding tenants for that company. Like,
yeah, that's what I did.
It requires a lot of hustle, right?
Yeah, my nickname is the canvassing queen, and canvassing means going door to door to door, walking into nail salons. Hey, I have a shopping center down the street.
For our listeners, I'm going to interrupt you sometimes. El canvasseo cuando vas de puerta en puerta vendiendo. Okay, sorry, yeah. The canvassing,
yeah.
Wow.
So walking in and saying, I have a shopping center, in the next city over, do you want to open more locations? And I literally in the beginning did that 80 to 100 times a day, 4 days a week.
Wow. Is that concept is still existing right now? Like that leasing is still, and that's the way people, because I thought I mean, remember we interviewed somebody who was talking about the leasing and everything and very specific to a small business, but to the extent of actually knocking in somebody's door and say, okay, you have a nail salon. What if you open a location in the other nail salon and another nail salon in like the next city? Because you are helping them extend their business, grow their business, and also fill in your shopping center at the same time. But
And
instead
so
of they coming to you, you're going to them.
right. So if there are 50,000 leasing agents in the US, less than 500 knock on doors like I do.
Less than 500. So it's
They
not,
usually,
yeah.
most people put up signs in the window for lease. Maybe they'll put their properties on an online, like a LoopNet or CoStore, like our versions of MLSs, and they wait for the phones to ring. And those are not in the top 1%. So so I canvassed a lot. I coach it. I speak about it. So really peers in my industry started calling me kind of like as a dig. Oh, there she is, the canvassing queen. Well, I took that and I trademarked it. And so I am now the canvassing queen, and people hire me all around the country to go teach their people. Like I literally go to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and take a team of 6 people out and show them how to do it.
Oh,
And these
wow.
teaches, and you do that like you just teach for retail, right? Because we know that this is a method that's also very common for single family homes to find like opportunities going knocking by door, or you teach for all.
So only commercial. So I've done it for office buildings and I've done it for industrial, but I haven't done it anything for residential, just commercial.
How do you canvas for industrial?
So it's not that hard, because if you have, let's say there's an industrial listing of like, let's say someone has an industrial listing of a 10,000 square foot big building. I would go to an industrial park that had 3, 4, 5,000 square feet. And those people, usually the owners are in the office so literally you pull up and you just walk in with flyers. Always have flyers, because if the boss isn't there, you want to leave something behind. And a business card doesn't tell you anything, but a flyer that says, 3 miles away, I have 10,000 square feet. And you just walk in and say to the guys, whatever, let's say distribution or, manufacturing, hey, I have big warehouse space with great truck wells. Who can I speak to? And they go, oh, the owner, he's, and they'll like call him, or he's in the office, or he's not here. I go, can I leave the flyer? Sure. And if they're looking to expand or they're looking to move out and sublease, so it's very rare in industrial, but it works because I remember walking into an industrial, like 20,000 square foot. We had a 50,000 and I'm looking for aspirational, right? And the guy goes, people do this? I go, no, just me.
That's exactly my reaction.
Well, I mean, if you need a client, go where the client is.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. And I feel like we have become, and especially new generations, I include, yeah, we just want to stay in the computer and find everything online. I was reading a book the other day about buying a small business, which was one of my favorite topics when I went to business school 15 years ago. But still, like, I feel that nowadays we want to find everything online. Oh, yeah, that's awesome. So instead of just going and getting, like, we're more lazy, right? I don't know. I just feel that's
and when people say, well, it's, your time, how efficient is it? People ask me that all the time. And I'll say, like, so now I own shopping centers. I still canvas for my own. I was doing a speech somewhere and someone said, how you own $80 million of shopping centers? You're really going to tell me you canvas? And I said, well, and I stopped my speech on stage and I'm like, we had a flip chart and I said, let's walk through this. And I walked through that. Let's say I speak to 100 businesses. I get a lead. I lease my property. I take the income. Divide it by the cap rate. I said, so I've just added $800,000 of value to my property when I leased a small 1,000 square foot space. I said, do you think that's worth my time? So, and if it takes me 3 days to hit 100 people, so 3 days, and I increased the value of my property by $800,000. Gentlemen in the audience, do you think that's worth my time? Shut them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people see it, people might interpret it as a waste of time. You going and knocking doors, pretty
Okay,
much.
well, my thinking would be go to big corporations, like to be these big brands like franchises and go to the headquarters.
Yeah, so those you have to call the broker. So like Starbucks, Chipotle, all of those, but of all my shopping centers, I have 3 shopping centers. One's got 23 tenants, one's got 20 tenants. I have 4. One's got 3 tenants and one's got 7 tenants. So about 20 to 30% are national corporate people. They all have representatives. So you call their headquarters, hey, I want to talk to the Starbucks rep in Miami, and they'll go, oh, call this broker and this real estate person who helps us. And then so that's all built on relationships. And we have networking events that help us meet each other. But the other 70% of the plaza are the locals who, and again, I really don't, I mean, I will work with startup businesses, but I really want the person who's got 2 other locations. What a better way for me to find those people than to go knocking on doors. And then the last thing that's so great about canvassing is that's where I find properties to buy.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so I want to so now you mentioned you have 4 shopping retail centers. So how did you transition from canvassing and working so many years for this company, you as a real estate agent, as a leasing agent, how did you transition to start buying and being like that developer? Or first, do you buy, is it ground up, or do you buy already?
Yeah. No, so I got very, very, very lucky. So I worked for a guy when I joined his firm at 26, he was 29. We had 11 people.
Okay.
That was in 1986. In 1988, he went to go buy a shopping center and he was syndicating it, bringing in family and friends money. And he came to me, so I'm 20, so 1988, I'm 28. And he goes, do you want to put some money in this deal we're buying? I'm like, I don't have any money, and I was making probably 50 grand, and I'm like, I don't have any money. And he goes, yeah, but you're married.
How many years have passed since
2.
You were 2 years? Okay.
So I joined in 86 and this was 88. Okay. And he goes, okay. And they bought the shopping center. It was a huge success. Everyone made a lot of money, made distributions. So in 1990, he comes to me and he says, we're going to buy this deal. Do you want in? And now I'm probably making 80, 90,000. My husband, the same. I go, I don't have any money. He goes, what do you mean you don't have any money? I'm like, well, I went to Hawaii. I have a Jaguar, and I thought I maxed out on my 401k. And he's like, you're an idiot. And then he passed me by again. 1992 comes, another deal. And he goes, and now I'm probably making 130. And he's like, don't tell me you don't have enough money. You're investing in this deal. And I'm like going, and he goes, no way. He goes, what are you doing with your money? Well, Miami Dolphin tickets, Florida Panther, Miami Marlins, Florida State Summit. I mean, we were living the high life, no kids, my husband and I. And he goes, you are a freaking idiot. He took me and my husband, this is where the luck part comes in, took my husband and I to the local bank and co-signed a $50,000 note for me to invest in my first real estate deal.
Wow.
So he co-signed, that means that if you didn't make any money or you lose your money, he would pay?
Yeah. So he said, and I have a conference, a women's investor conference, and last year was our 5th year. And I open the conference every year. I talk about this story because it's so this year on our 5th anniversary, I said, I think it's about time that I publicly thank him. Stephen, would you like to come on stage? There's no men at our conference. And I said, Stephen, would you like to come on? The gasp in the audience, like, oh, and he comes on stage. I go, why did you do that?
Yeah.
And at the time I thought, oh, all bosses do this. And now and my 88 women I've interviewed, right, for my Women Investor Wednesday podcast, I'm learning now at 64. I mean, I always was grateful and appreciative, but I'm learning how that was such a monumental thing that he did. So it
changed the path of your,
because then I did it. So then I invested with 7 more. So that's when I became an LP. I put in 50,000. We sold that deal 7 years ago, over the 30 years we owned it, I made over $1 million on the 50,000. So that was incredible. But what it did, Lala, yes, I then did it 7 more times with him. And then when I left the company, which he was very mad about and didn't talk to me for 5 years, but my son had to come first, single parent, of my son. I then was able to say, oh, well, I watched him do it 7 times. I can do it. Now it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder. People think, oh, I was an LP 7 times. I can go.
It is. I started as an LP too until we moved to the GP side, and it's a lot harder. And you make less money at the beginning, and there's much more risk, but in the long run. But so on these deals that you invested, were all of them wins? Because that,
No.
I mean, exactly.
No.
I always talk to my investors. I mean, there's some, it's like investing, it's different, but it's like when you're investing in the stock market, like some win, some lose, and you got to have a balanced portfolio, right? And you got to know what you're getting into, because you can lose money. And I feel there's so many people that are, especially in Latin America, I'm surprised that I see a lot of like guaranteed returns, like this type of advertising, that it's like, no way. Like in the US,
it's guaranteed.
People need to know what they're getting into. So can you tell us about it sounds great, but what happened? Like, what was the overall outcome of these LP investments, and what did you learn that way?
Yeah, so I invested with him 7 times, and one we lost our money. So I think in the one I put in 50, but so the first one I put in 50, a huge success. Then another one we put in 100, it was a big success. One we put in 200, it was a big success. Another one, I was getting ready to leave the company, I knew it, so I only put in we bought a 2-deal package. I put 25 and 25, but he gave me part of his GP, which again was very lucky, because we've made a lot of money on that one. But one of them, I think I had put in maybe 30 or 50, and the deal, we ended up giving the deal back to the bank. We had a Winn-Dixie closed. We had a very, very difficult time releasing the Winn-Dixie supermarket. There were no, like, it was Publix or Winn-Dixie back then. There were not like 10 other options, and it was not in a great market, not on a good corner, not on a good location. And we lost all of our money. So I think it was 30 or 50,000, but the other 6 were all of them were home runs, but because he's brilliant. So when I went out on my own, I probably have of the, let's say 8 or 9 GPs, 3 went bad. 3 went bad. So
because
I've had
tenants, or because you went through the recession period?
One was the great financial crisis. We bought another Winn-Dixie Plaza. I should have learned my lesson. And BlackRock was my partner. So I put in me and a partner put in 120.
Easy to sell to investors, I can imagine, saying BlackRock is your partner.
Yeah. So we put in 125. My partner put in 125. And we assumed a mortgage. So BlackRock put in 6 million. So BlackRock's my partner. I'm the GP, and they're my limited, but they had decision-making powers because they're BlackRock. So we bought so we did a Staples, like an Office Depot Staples deal.
Yeah, so it wasn't, you didn't have other retail investors.
No, just me and one partner in BlackRock.
Partners and you as a GP. What year was this?
This was 2005 or 6. Okay. So heading right into the recession. And Winn-Dixie, we had Walgreens moved out, we brought in Staples, we tripled the rent. So we're all happy. Like Walgreens moved out, so sad, got in Staples, tripled the rent. Everyone's happy, so happy. Winn-Dixie, we buy it out of bankruptcy so we can control the space. I could never lease the Winn-Dixie. Our deal with the loan, which was a securitized loan, was there was a balloon payment that came due in 2010 for 12 million. So 2012, can't lease the Winn-Dixie. The rest of it's completely full, but when you can't lease a 30,000 square foot, that's the bulk of the income. So we go to the lender and we say, our balloon note is 12 million. It's worth 9. We'll pay 9. And the lender said, we can't negotiate. So we gave the keys back to the lender, and 4 years later, they sold to someone for 9. But no,
Yeah.
and during the whole time, we paid the mortgage. We were never in default. So when BlackRock said we need to give this back to the bank because we're not going to pay 12 million when it's worth 9 because of the loss of the tenant and the GFS, I said, the great financial crisis, I said, I called the bank, the lender, and I said, I have done everything right. We just can't, it's just the market doesn't value. So I said, can you give me a letter that I was a good paying mortgagee? Because I wanted to keep doing this. And I thought,
yeah, and
I'm
that's
going to
super
have,
important to build a history with lenders. If not, it cuts off your career, basically, if you have a, yeah.
right. I'm like, I'm doing a deed in lieu, and I'm never going to be able to buy another piece of commercial real estate. But they gave me a letter and they said that I never took funds away. The mortgage was always paid. The property was always maintained. Like I didn't take fees because there's people that take advantage. So I got the letter, and that very much helped me to keep my career going.
Wow, that is crazy. So, how, like now that I'm looking at it from the outside, is not only the economic around and value of the property, but the tenants. You're very dependent on how you, and going back to Canvas, and it's like very important because that's how you are going to add value. You are going to push the value in that section that you can control because the economy, we cannot control it. Values of the market and values of the houses, we cannot control it. But we can control the push appreciation by having the correct tenants in the property.
And the most important thing in my business in retail is location, location, location. During COVID, all of COVID, I lost one tenant because all of my shopping centers are on Main and Main, and I pay more for that. So people will call me all the time and go, I found a shopping center, $50 a square foot. Like the shopping centers I buy are 400 a square foot. I go, well, what's the problem? And they'll say, well, it's in this city. And then I'll go to Google Earth and I'll go, there's 40 shopping centers around this deal. I buy shopping centers where there's not a lot of shopping centers around, or it's near a college or near a hospital with lots of high income, because disposable income means that my restaurants will be fuller. People will pay more, they'll have higher revenues. But if it's one shopping center down the street surrounded by 40 other shopping centers, now you're a commodity. So people go, you pay $400 a square foot? Yes, that's what I'll pay. I'll pay a very low cap rate, but I have the best shopping center with the highest income, the best visibility, near hospitals, near colleges, to make sure my tenants are doing sales, because rent is a function of sales. So if a tenant does great sales, they don't care what they pay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But if the tenant does not do great sales, they're calling you wanting a rent reduction.
Yeah. So, and did you you always stay in your area, always Florida? You have not branched out?
So everything I own is within 10 minutes of my house.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
I am the expert, but I LP with women around the country. So I have this conference for women, and last year was the first time we were profitable. And I announced that any profits from the conference will be invested in women's deals. So I have invested with 2 women who own a Marriott hotel in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I invested with them. I invested with a woman that had mixed, like flex warehouse in California. I've invested with someone in North Carolina, all women.
I love that. I love that. And I've always believed, I mean, we talked outside of the camera, it's important. And I always talk about this with my investors, and I sometimes lower the ticket size just to have more women within my fund or within my deals. Because I truly believe that you have to invest in the future you want to see. And I'm so glad to hear that, because I once raised for a venture capital fund that only invested in VC, in startups run by women. And I just feel that if we start as a woman, and it's not like a fight. I mean, I love men. I have a great husband. He supports me. And I have a brother, and my father, he's been a great mentor. and believes in me a lot, but still, like, I feel that if we believe in something, that in the actions that you take, and investing is so powerful because it unlocks so many other things. So I really appreciate that you are doing that, and it's nice to find like-minded people, and especially in commercial real estate, because we're still like la minoría. What's the word in English? Yeah,
Minority.
we're still the minority, right? So
Right. Well, that's why I started this mission, because during COVID, I had read a stat that of all of the investors in commercial real estate, only 3% were women. And of that, half were inherited or wives signing on their husband's guarantee. And I said, I have to change that. Like I'm part of 1.5%. And so I started asking my friends who are in commercial real estate, like they rep Starbucks, they find a site for Starbucks, and then they hand the whole package to a guy. I'm like, why are you not throwing your commission in the deal to be part of the deal? Oh, I did. Like, we thought you needed $1 million to be part of commercial investment. No, you don't. So I said, I have to start getting women on stages to share their stories so that women know that they can invest in residential and commercial.
It's doable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. And actually, I mean, there's so many studies, but it comes from our psychological, like, we are more risk averse, right? But sometimes you don't do stuff because you don't see anyone like you doing the stuff. So it's very important to start changing that, because at the end of the day, if more women are investing, so more wealth will be created, and there will be more women decision makers, and it's just to flatten out the thing. I don't know. I just feel it's amazing what you're doing.
And society has taught us to not talk about money.
Yes.
So I get up on stage.
It's terrible. Yeah.
Yes.
I get on stage and I go, how much did you buy that deal for? What did you put down? How did you get? I make them talk about money. Mm-hmm. I tell them in advance I'm going to pick on them, but we have to talk about money. I'm renovating my shopping center. One of my shopping centers, and it's a $4 million renovation. And the GC is a woman-owned general contracting company. We had breakfast yesterday, and she said, you know, I went to your conference. My husband was all like, he's like, yes, let's invest. But I was risk averse. I didn't want it. He goes, I left your conference with a whole different mindset. And I started talking with my girlfriends about money, which I had never done before. Yeah. I said, yay.
Yes. And that's exactly the risk averse breaks when you start educating yourself. When you start listening to that, and you're like, you feel like, okay, I know, because I don't know what it is. We don't want to take risks because we are so protected of our families and our families' money, that is like, no, I prefer to be placed safe. But then when you start learning and seeing other women and seeing how this is like, okay, now it's not a risk. It's just, I mean, everything has a risk, but now it's an educated decision that you make. So it is, I see it more and more like education out there for everybody.
Yeah. And I say, look, we can all lose our money. We can, you know, if you invest in something, you can lose it, but you can also make it back. Mm-hmm. Do you have confidence in yourself? So if you, let's say, you know, I say, if you only have $100,000 in a savings account to invest, don't invest the 100, invest 25. Mm-hmm. And let's say you lose it. I'm sure you're capable of making that back.
Yeah.
And I mean, like I said, the 7 deals with Steven, 1 lost money. The 12 deals I've done, 3, but 9 didn't.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But it's just like the stock market. Mm-hmm. The stock, my Netflix dropped 80% last year.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. So okay.
Sorry. So I was going to ask you, so what are the trends and the changes that, I mean, you've been in the industry for so many years. What are you seeing right now? And where do you see the opportunities are in this market, like in this?
Well, so I want to ask you a question. How much, if retail sales in the US is $13 trillion, what percentage do you think of that is e-commerce, online purchasing? What percentage of the 13 million do you think?
Of the retail sales, I would say.
Well, guess 30? For me, 30. Yes.
You both said 30?
Yes.
It's 16%.
Oh.
And before COVID, the estimate was that it would get to 30. And as an investor, because people are like, aren't you afraid of investing in retail? So as an investor, if I can get 70% of the consumer share, I'm great with that. But it plateaued during COVID. It went up to 17.8 and now it's back down to 16. So it's been hovering at this 16, 17 for about 8 years. So I don't think it's ever going to get to 30 because the online sellers are now realizing they need stores for pickup. Like COVID really kind of shook up retail, which is great for us.
If it didn't jump in COVID, which was the perfect storm for online, then I don't see how it's like what other scenario can jump to 30.
Right. And so the other thing that happened since COVID is restaurants. So restaurants have become the anchor of plazas, right? Because when I first started, if you had a Marshall's or a TJ Maxx or a Ross or a Best Buy, they didn't want restaurants in their plazas because it took too much parking. So they would say, you can have a restaurant, but it's got to be out on the front of the property, like on an out parcel. It can't be next to us. But now everyone realizes the strong demand that consumers have to eat out. And for the first time ever, the eating out surpassed eating in the home. And that happened before COVID. Then during COVID, obviously, it went back to eating at home. But the minute COVID ended, it went back that the number is higher. So now those national credit tenants, those anchors, they want restaurants. So when I first got into business, if you had a 100,000 square foot shopping center, you would not have more than 10% of your property restaurants. Now it's 30 to 40 to 50,000. Wow. So that is the newest trend. But what I always say is the uses that fill shopping centers today are the 5 F words, and I promise I'll be clean. Food, fitness, so Pure Barre, Stretch Zone, Pilates, fun, bounce houses, and axe throwing, and golf simulators, fun. Go with me here, physicians. I know it's a PH, but medical, you can't build a hospital anymore. It costs too much money. So the hospitals are putting all of their retail, like the MRIs and the pediatricians, they're putting them in our shopping centers.
Cares and that's type.
Right, and all of that. And then franchises. The baby boomers that are retiring are getting into franchising like you would. I've never seen the craze. Every week I probably get 5 calls from like a guy that wants to open a print shop or someone that wants to open a juice store. So franchises so those are the trends that are filling all of our shopping centers around.
And ideally will be a mix of it, to have a mix of everything. Okay.
Yeah.
And the opposite question, what are the type of businesses that you see that are dying, that are not going to be in retail?
malls, so regional malls. So if the country has 3,000 regional malls, we'll end up having maybe 1,000 in the next 5 to 10 years. You'll see, like in North Carolina, I don't know if you guys have boys. I have 2 boys. Fortnite is a video game, and Fortnite bought a mall in North Carolina for their headquarters. There's hospitals buying malls. There's schools, colleges buying malls. So, and a lot of malls are becoming multifamily. So we don't need 3,000 malls. Like in South Florida, we need 10 malls we've got 15 million people, maybe 12 to 15 million people in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Palm Beach. We need maybe 10 malls. We have 23 malls. So, what developers do is if you need one thing, they tend to build 4, right? So we'll continue to see malls that are not well visited by consumers start to become something else.
Yeah, I think that the malls now.
And then the other thing that no longer fills shopping centers is the thing that Amazon did take, e-commerce did take, is the commodity, the merchandise, shoe stores. When I first got in the business, there was 5 different shoe stores. There was Fava, Payless, Shoe Town. You could talk, I could cold call 5 different shoe stores, but now it's Zappos online. So if it's a commodity, if they can go online,
clothing brands,
clothing, shoes, we used to have 3 bookstores. We had Borders, Books a Million, and Barnes and Noble. now Barnes and Noble went away. Now they're coming back, which I love. I love books, but we used to have 3 children's clothes, like Baby Superstore, Lionel Play Toys, Toys R Us and Lionel Play World, gone. If it's a product that they can search online, those product retail-based mercantiles, our shopping centers are filled with nails, barbershop, things you can't get online, food.
More like service stuff. Yeah.
Right. Personal care, fitness, but no retail. It's very hard for you to find, like a Lululemon. Now they are in stores, but it's rare. They're not in every corner shopping center.
Yeah. Or if we see things like that, we see like a Marshalls where you have a little bit of everything. Not very niche, only shoes, only baby clothes, no Carters, but more like you can go there and buy several things at the same time. And even though
so what happened was when in the 60s, I was born in 1960, in the original malls, you had Sears and Penny's and they had everything, right? You went into a Penny's and it had women's clothing, men's clothing, it had home, it had sheets, it had kids stuff, it had appliances. And then what happened? All of a sudden, appliances went into Best Buy in Circuit City, and kids' clothing went into a Baby Superstore and whatever. And so it split the department store, which is why the malls aren't doing well, because then the department stores closed because we created our own problem.
No.
I have a question. Have you done? Have you represented tenants, the other side of it?
In my career at my last company, I represented LA Fitness, banks, Outback Steakhouse. I was the first, when I represented Outback, they had 7 locations. So
are you focused right now on keep on like maintaining these opportunities? Are you still like, what's the future for you? What's your focus on your career? Like where are you heading?
So I would like to continue to, if I find a good deal, I would buy it. Like I had an opportunity to buy an empty Wells Fargo bank. I had it under contract for $2.6 million. I raised $3.2 million in 4 days. So I had 30-day due diligence. I had to raise money, get tenants, and figure out if I could make a bank go into. So I had a national corporate coffee place, you could probably figure out, a Mexican place, and an Asian food. And they all 3 were clamoring. And I was trying to figure out if
your plan was to buy the bank, transform it, divide it in different spaces.
Yeah, and put 2 of those, either coffee and Asian and Mexican. I was going to release it. And I had 3 tenants clamoring for it. Raised $3.2 million cash, was wired to my account, all my partners, we were ready to go. And my land use council said, I thought that the impact fees, so changing from bank to food and beverage, we budgeted was 50 to 100,000. It came in at 500,000. The construction costs. Yeah, the construction costs came in at $1 million more. So I called the tenants. I said, I'm going to drop the deal. The tenants agreed to pay 25% more in rent, but the deal didn't pencil. So I had to wire all the money back to my partners, and I thought they were going to be so mad at me. And they said, oh no, we're going to give you double next time.
Yeah, it happened. I mean, once I had to wire back it's like, it speaks of your being, honest, and you're not going to get them, even though you have the money, you're not going to get them into a deal that will probably
not work out.
Right. It's right. A lot of responsibility. Right. So I want to buy deals, but I have 2 shopping centers, and there was a shopping center in the middle that I've wanted for 18 years. I met the guy when he was 76. When he turned 91, he agreed I could buy in and be a partner. 16 years. And now I own 34% of it. And I'm doing a $4 million renovation on it. And he's 92. And he's like, why did I wait so long to bring you in as a partner? So I want to continue to invest and buy and change, but it's hard. Like, except for that one, the last time I bought was 2016. So it's super hard for me because I will only buy in my community. So I'm spending a lot of time investing with women in their deals around the country. So I get deals sent to me all the time, and I'm happy to invest, like, give a check, get a check. I'm so that, and doing podcasts like this, and doing my podcast and doing my conference because we need more women to be in this game.
So
what do you? I'm sorry, I have two more questions.
we're gonna have to cut.
We're gonna run out of time. So what do you look even? Oh, you said women opportunities, but what is that you look at? You just shared that you invest across commercial, but across sectors. But what's what you look in when deciding to invest or not as an LP?
So I bet on the jockey. So the sponsor, the woman, I want to feel very strongly about her honesty, her work ethic, her knowledge of the asset class. Like, does she have experience doing it? I won't invest with women that don't put their own money in a deal. So if they're this whole idea of OPM, if a sponsor comes to me, I'm not investing. And I don't invest with people that have a lot of fees, like an acquisition fee, a disposition fee, a guarantee fee, a property management fee, an accounting fee. I'm not investing with someone so that they can make fees. So those are the things. So really meeting the jockey, their experience, their knowledge of the asset class, the fact that they don't fee it to death, and that they have their own skin in the game.
Perfect. Great. I was going to ask you about your conference, the last question. Can you tell us about it? What's the name? When are the dates?
Where they can find more information about you, your YouTube channel.
Yeah, so
Gaby, pardon, I did a lot of questions.
Nice. Okay. It's a fascinating topic.
I'll come back.
Of course you will.
The conference is March. I'm looking up the dates. We're going to open up registration on July 22nd because I'm speaking at a conference in Denver on a women investor panel, and that's the day we're going to open it up. We pre-sold 68 tickets last year, and we only sell 250 tickets. It's a very small group because women are investing with each other in the room because of the intimacy of it, which I love.
Where is the conference?
It's in Fort Lauderdale, March 4th through the 6th.
Perfect.
And it's called, they can find me, Beth Azor is the website, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram.
YouTube, yes. You just Google her name and she'll be listed. Yeah. You have great following and great YouTube channel. I've been watching some of the videos, and it's very educational. So thank you for sharing your knowledge with our audience, and just thank you for sharing your knowledge with the world. And if you allow us, we would love to have you back and just tell us a little more of these deals. And because we continue to have questions, and we probably some of the audience, if you want to send us questions, we'll be happy to put them in a file and bombard you a little more next time.
My pleasure. Lala and Gaby, thanks for having me.
You're welcome, Beth. Muchas gracias. Yo soy Lala Elizondo.
Y yo soy Gaby Proctor.
Y esto fue
Real Estate. Si llegaste hasta aquí es porque te gustó la información y estás interesado en invertir en real estate en Estados Unidos.
Para esto hemos creado un entrenamiento que te va a simplificar este camino, ya sea que seas un inversionista por primera vez o que seas un inversionista sofisticado.
En la descripción de este episodio está la liga que te llevará a este entrenamiento.
O bien búscanos en Instagram como @invierte con Lala y Gaby y comenta con la palabra invertir en cualquiera de nuestras publicaciones y así te mandamos la liga a este entrenamiento.
Muchísimas gracias por habernos escuchado. Nos vemos en el siguiente. Escucha un episodio nuevo de Real Estate Talks cada semana
en tu plataforma favorita para escuchar podcasts.
Ponte en contacto con nosotros en lalaygaby.com.